Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to talk about Gutta-Percha gauging. So it's always something when we assume that the GP will fit because we are using the same system as the file, but the canal is unpredictable and a not well done obturation can bring lots of problems to that treatment and the treatment can fail. So let's talk about gauging now. This is the x-ray of the cone fit. So as you can see here, that is the palatal root. The GP has reached the apex. However, there is this step here showing that I've got sealer and I haven't got sealer. There are lots of voids in it, so the GP is probably too thin for that canal. If I had finished the obturation and left like that, that's when you have voids and you can have bacterial growth and a very weak seal, and your root canal treatment can fail. Instead of that, I like this x-ray when we take the x-ray with a cone fit with the sealer already in there, is because at that stage I can fix everything I want. If I close that tooth, then I need another appointment to remove the GP and to fix the problem. When you use the system, imagine you use a rotary system and your gauge of the rotary system is 30. You can use a GP size 30, but will that fit? It depends on the shape of the canal. It may be that that canal is oval, which most of the canals are, and then the GP will fit at some sort, but will create lots of voids. The sealer needs to go together with the GP. When you put the GP, make sure the GP don't through the apex, because if it goes through the apex, it means that your GP is too thin for your prep. You need to go with one size larger than that and still see if it goes through. And if it goes short, you need to compensate as well. So that's when you should have in your drawers, you should have more than one size, not the matching GPs. If you have a system that finished with 30 and that's your normal finishing size, you should have a 25 and a 40, for example, and that is for compensate what the anatomy of that canal is. Another thing we can do is to take a CBCT beforehand, before the treatment, to see what the anatomy looks like. When you check the CBCT, you can see that the canal is quite large and the apex is large as well, almost opening in a small delta. If you finish with a GP that is too small, you are underfilling with your sealer, and that is when you can have problems of reinfection. The solution then is for you to gauge your GP before your obturation. I normally gauge my GP while I still have sodium hypochlorite inside of the last rings of the canal. That way I can disinfect my cone at the same time. So gauge, see what file system you used, what final GP you used, and then get that GP to match, put inside of the canal and see if that is loose inside of the canal, if it's going through the apex, so make sure you have the working length correctly. If it's going through the apex, it means that your apex is larger than your last file, so you need to customize your GP, selecting a GP a little bit larger, so next size up, for example. Same way applies to when you try to put the GP and the GP doesn't go. If it doesn't reach the apex, for example, your working length, you have two options. You can try to use a smaller taper. For example, you prepared your canal with a wave 1 or a reciproc, which is 06 taper. Instead of finishing with a 2506 or a 25 or a 3006 or 4006, you could drop the GP to a 2504. That means that within the canal, that GP won't catch it. It will be slightly loose inside of the canal. You can compensate that putting some accessory GPs or a 1504 just to create a little bit of pressure, hydraulic pressure for your sealer to flow better in that canal. That way you will make sure that at the apex your GP is a proper size to put pressure, hydraulic pressure with your bioceramic sealer to fill that lateral canals and to fill that delta or whichever complex anatomy you have at the apex. And coronally, you can always use the single cone with some accessory point or 1504, 2004 just to put pressure laterally, or you can use a warm vertical condensation, which is a good technique as well with the bioceramic. So try to do that because that's when you are going to see your GP matching the correct anatomy of your canal. And this step can dramatically improve your outcome and success rate. And your x-ray, the final x-ray, will be more beautiful as well, which is always good to see. And remember, always gauge your GP before your obturation. Take an x-ray with the GP and sealer together so you can fix whatever is wrong. Don't just rely on the size fit according to your system. Go with the anatomy of the canal and use the CBCT if you have that available, because it always helps. And if you found that useful, give a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, share with your friends, and please put a comment so we can increase our community. Thank you, and see you in the next video.